Welcome to Print Your Games, the podcast about what's new and awesome in 3D printing for gamers. I'm one of your hosts, Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Perram, and I'm joined by...
Kristen Soward's also known as Seventh Mastery.
Kristen, this has been a fun week filled with mostly good news on the 3D printing front. It's like
I like good
not a
news.
lot of not a lot of controversies, a whole lot of like we talked about the sales, some of those are still going on. I still think you can get like an Anycubic mono 4K for like $200, no, $160. So like it's a great time to get a printer still.
Yep.
And then Elegoo does what they do best.
Hmm.
Secretly announce more printers. I swear to goodness, like they're multiplying like rabbits at this point. It's just like you just look away. You had two Elegoo printers sitting in the corner. Suddenly, you've got a dozen.
hmm So what are they
So
dropping on us today?
oh, this has been a fun one. It's more Neptune threes, even more
Or
Neptune threes. Yeah. So we did notice that the Neptune 3 Pro dropped like immediately, like months after the Neptune 3 dropped, and at the exact same retail price. So like of the two, grab the Pro if you're still in the market. If you picked up a not Pro, don't worry about it. Keep printing. It's still a good printer, and the upgrades on the Pro are mostly minor unless you want to print in nylon. And again, I cannot tell you how much I suggest against printing in nylon. If you choose to hate yourself and want to wrestle with a machine for all eternity, by all means, decide to print nylon. But otherwise, stick with PLA and PETG and just have a wonderful life filled with successful prints that do not explode or turn into bubble wrap.
I like that. I like that. My last FDM print was a big old mess. We got people in chat. Andy,
Yes.
Mike, James, and Alex Trevor.
Thank you all. Good to see you all again. Yes, so Elegoo announced two more Neptune 3s on top of the Neptune 3 Pro. They are bigger Neptune 3s, otherwise identical to the Neptune 3.
They
Because
literally
the
look like on the picture. If you're looking at the screen, they literally look like someone just zoomed in.
Yes. I've got up the website First Quadcopter, all about drones. They've got the best write up right now.
Sure. Hey.
This was all information taken from their Twitter account and Facebook groups. If you go to their website, they don't even have it on their website. But that was also true of the Saturn 8K upgrade as well. And I saw Uncle Jesse look at this printer in the background, so I do know these things do exist.
Yeah.
Um, so there is the Neptune 3 Plus, which is 350 US dollars,
hmm
and it increases the build. Okay, so the normal Neptune has a 225 millimeter square build plate and goes up to 280 millimeters tall. So right around ish 11 inches worth of build plate square. So enough for most gamers to get what they need.
hmm
The Neptune 3 Plus ups that to 320. So you're going to gain, what's that? Another 5 inches on each side.
Nice.
Yeah. And goes up to 400 millimeters tall. Now that's real nice. That is, hey, you're getting close to being able to print helmets. But if you absolutely want to actually print a helmet, there's the Neptune 3 Max, and this is retailing for $470. That has a 420 square build plate that goes up to 500 millimeters tall.
Wow.
So, like, you could print some rather chonky pieces. Like that wizard's that one wizard's tower I wanted to print from Cast and Play, I
hmm
wouldn't need to divide the base up on this one. That base is divided into four pieces for to fit into the Neptune 3 build plate. But nah, I could just slap the whole dang thing on this one. You wanted to print well, you couldn't print like a vest or anything, but absolutely could print a very fancy helmet for props on this one. Like, you could print an entire dice tower in one go on this thing.
Yeah,
It
you
is,
could do sectional armor too for
yeah.
cosplay. Yeah, for
And
sure.
they come with the same upgrades that the Neptune 3 Pro has. So we've got mesh bed leveling. The bigger the bed plate, the more points they check, which is, that just makes sense.
Yep.
Dual Z axis motors instead of a single Z axis motor.
Hmm.
And the direct drive extruder, which is the the big selling point upgrade of these over the normal Neptune 3s. And this looks like this is going to be like the style of printer going forward. I know that Anycubic has had very similar upgrades on their Cobra line. So hey, if you want to get a 3D printer, FDM printer, and you want it to go a little bit bigger and you don't want to break the bank, these look like very good options coming up down the pipeline.
Very nice.
Yeah. We've got a lot of good news to cover tonight. And then our main topics mostly have to do with our projects. So that's why the what we're doing has been kicked off until after the news segment for this episode. But we're super glad to do we are super glad to do chatting with all y'all. So if you got any questions for us or anything you want us to chat about, do go ahead and get that in there and chat. See, Catholic said just Uncle Jesse did a short video review of the Neptune 3 Plus, which is cool. Cool. Yeah, I noticed that he's been doing a lot of YouTube shorts lately. And I do not catch them all because YouTube's website needs to be better at letting me know when somebody I like has a short out.
Yeah. I was supposed to say, if I don't catch the phone notification, and the second it comes in, it's gone. I'll miss it.
Yeah. Other big news is that Lychee has released an FDM slicer, which is curious. Like, why would you do that, Lychee? And the answer is that they like their resin slicer because they can do it better. They can attack things that aren't being handled by your usual slicing options. So right now, if you want to slice, the two main slicers that everybody's using is Cura, which is what I use.
It's usually what I use too.
And then there is Pressure Slicer, which is also a very good slicer. And I've been considering switching over to Pressure because it supports the variable width and the lightning supports and all sorts of cool, neat things. Well, Lychee's coming in here, swinging big, adopting some support techniques that we've seen on Pressure and a few that's been talked about, like painting on supports so that you can just run your mouse along where you want the supports to be. Actually showing you what your supports look like while you're getting your model ready instead of having to slice it first before you see what the supports are.
That's wild. That's cool.
Yeah, and also just lots of fun quality of life improvements in the interface that we're used to from the resin side. Because remember, on the resin side, we had basically Chitubox and Pressure was good, but very feature limited. Still probably the better choice, but didn't work with all printers. So you had to do your supports in Pressure and then export to Chitubox. And then you had Chitubox, which was very bad. This auto supports were garbage tier.
Yeah, till recently.
They have, yeah. And then Lychee came out, and then Cura got better. Oh, not Cura, but Chitubox got better all in a hurry when Lychee started giving them some competition.
Some threat, yeah.
Yeah, competition in the market is always great. So I'm glad to see some more competition in this market. So hopefully this means that Cura and Pressure start like upping their game. Now Cura is open source, so that's going to have all the good and bad things that come with open source. I love open source software, but boy, does it look like the back of a tech manual when you're using the interface.
True.
D&D Mike, Elegoo, how do we make the Neptune 3 better? Employee of the year. Double it.
Yeah.
I am going to. So actually, this is good news, but there's a free version available, but there is also a pro version available, and it's getting a little bit expensive.
I was going to ask what the price
supporter.
Yeah.
So standalone, it's $40 a year to use the FDM version, and if you want to get the FDM and the resin version, it is $80 a year. Currently,
no discount,
the resin version is $60.
Oh, okay. So it is a little bit.
There is a discount. I kind of think it's a little bit not fun that they're charging extra for this, because I think that $60 a month is an awful lot of money that I'm giving Lychee each year not $60 a month. $60 a year is a lot of money that I'm giving Lychee. That I honestly think that this could have just been part of the one subscription instead of now everything gets complicated, especially since their website is broken right now and won't even let me upgrade or access my
Yikes.
account. So
That's not good.
get on that, Lychee. Fix that stuff. But overall, good news. It is in beta. There's still limited printer support. You still can't create your own custom printer like you can in every other slicer. So there's all that. But what they do have is working great, and people have already figured out ways to sort of get other printers to work by just modifying the stats of a printer that is similar enough to it. And since most FDM printers are still bedslinger copies of each other, that's easier said than done. And as Catlet says in chat, still cheaper than G2 Box.
That's fair. James says depends on how much time the tool is saving. Might be worth $1 if saves even a few hours a month. I agree, but I still like. I mean, as a filthy casual, I can still usually use even the free stuff if I'm willing to be frustrated a little. So I don't know.
Now
I just $60 is a lot of different Patreon support. That's all I'm saying.
It is a lot, but it's not even one Patreon annual.
There's a couple, but yeah,
a couple that you could get away with on that one.
I think of one that's pretty decent. It's like 50, but yeah, usually the annuals are like 80 to 100.
Right. Oh, but still, overall, it's good news. Good software is worth paying for. I still don't like this paying for software in monthly installments thing. I like to buy my software and keep it, but the rest of the world evidently disagrees with that method. So I will continue to be subscribed to death going forward.
The death of 1,000 cuts.
Next, I noticed a video hit my feed from 3D HP, a review of a printer brand I never heard of before.
Yeah, and this one looks very different.
Yeah, very curious. Now, this is not another FDM printer. We have not become the FDM printer show, even though we kind of have been opened up. It's if Elegoo would just take a breather and invent less than 3 printers a month, we would talk.
I assure you,
them.
This will never become an FDM only printer show.
Oh, so we
My
have a
heart
resin
would
printer
explode.
And that is the how do I say it? The GKTwo, which is a printer I have never heard of before from Uniformation. Now, there's a lot of resin printers that we don't talk about because there's actually a whole lot of them out there. And this one stood out because it is a Saturn sized printer. To be more specific, it is more akin to a Saturn II. So like that 10.3 inch bed. It's got the 8K and it retails for $900. That is a little bit more than your average Saturn II. So like, what makes this so interesting? I was like, why is this a little bit more expensive? And the answer is the quality of life features that they've built into this beast. It has the built-in air filtering. That's no news. The Saturn II has that. The Elegoo 8K has that. But it's nice. It is very nice. Not having to do the little swap with the little chargeable modules is good. Especially since I lost my darn cable and I don't know where it's at anymore. And they don't use
charging
USB-C.
Cable for those.
Yeah. I'm very grumpy right now. I need to remember where I put it. But it's got the filter.
Like OG cables though. You could go pick it up at like anywhere. I almost said a bad place. Anyway.
It has very weird build plate that has a drip catcher on the edge and is a thick boy.
It is weird though, like because I imagine like unless it goes into some sort of internal reservoir or channel, you're still gonna have to just be careful with it for just tipping it out, right? Like it doesn't seem like it's catching that much to me. I don't know. Tell me what I'm not seeing. Tell me what I'm not seeing.
It's a big chunky boy, but it's got latches and sensors to keep you from not attaching the bed to the printer and it lifting it up in the air on the print. So that's great. You will not accidentally lift your vat into the air on this printer, as I may or may have not done once. But here's the big thing. It's got a built-in heater. A built-in heater that automatically keeps the interior temperature of the printer at 78 to 80 Fahrenheit, which is the ideal temperature to be printing at resin at. So
Wonder if
if
it
you
keep
have this
up in a
shoved out in your
garage.
garage
Yeah.
or in your if you have this shoved out into your mud room or something, this is really great. And pretty soon I'm going to be doing I'm researching right now what the best way is to keep your printer heated during the winter, because it's starting to become the winter over here for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I want a good way to do that. And there have been some new solutions proposed in the world. But
Oh,
hey, this printer does that for you.
for you. That'd
So,
be nice.
yeah. And other than that, it's just, it's got FEP2 and built in screen protector and all that fun stuff that has become standard. So this is just a nice new printer on the market. The again, shout out to the YouTube channel 3DHP, which is where I heard about this. They've got a good review that just breaks it down in excruciatingly good details, and like a really cool Black Panther statue that they printed using this that was very big. I was surprised at the height of some of the stuff coming out of this thing.
Nice.
Uh, so yeah, new printer, new competition in the market. I'm glad to see some names that aren't just Anycubic or Creality or Elegoo
See,
that we have to
Catlet
chat about.
says Pio Poly Forge also has a heater and says ask on Discord to you.
Okay, Catlet, I'll be hitting you up with that. PND Mike says my Canadian ears just perked right up on that one. Yeah. So as we enter the winter, the surprise print failures are upon us. That should have printed. It printed fine last week. What's going on? The answer is you need to make sure that your printer is heated. Printers do not like temperatures below 70 Celsius, 70 Fahrenheit.
It's
I'm
true.
not sure the Celsius conversion on that because I am a filthy American.
I'm sure someone in chat will shame us both because I
Yeah.
should be able to do that conversion too, and my brain is not happening.
And
right
when it starts to get close to 60 Fahrenheit, then you start getting really bad failures. You can try to compensate by pumping up that exposure time and slowing your prints down, but that's a losing game in the long run,
It's worth noting
especially when it
also
fluctuates.
if you store your resin in those
Mm-hmm.
temperatures, like out in the garage or whatever, you can get some weird fails later as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But hey, we got printers that have heat, so we have heaters for printers. This is a known quantity, but hey, if you are not able to keep your printer inside into a heated room and you have it out in a garage or a mudroom, you're gonna need that. James says 26C and Catlet says 18C. I'm not sure which of those applies to which of the temperatures I rattled
We
off
did say
there.
70 and 60, so it could be
This
both.
is true. Yeah. And this is a Google solution away, but I'm in the middle of a podcast, and Googling during a podcast is typically bad form.
Yeah, yeah. But thank you.
And that's the news. That's the news I got. It's
That-
all
that's some
mostly
good
good
news.
news.
Yeah.
Fun times.
Absolutely. See, Cat, I had the same problem. I had a midway through a very big print drop and get like super messed up by it.
Yeah, the problem is that when it's cold out, it's fluctuating. So it's going to go low and it's going to go high. And if you're trying to do the compensation, you have the slice for that. The printer's not doing that. You really just need to heat the printer. And I've been using a small personal heater next to the printer to achieve this. That has worked absolutely fine and worked wonders and not any problems. Also, but my printer is in a mud room, which is still in the house, but it's just not the best heated room in the house, so it never
Right.
gets to freezing in there. It's just a little bit more chilly than the rest of the house during the cold nights. What I ultimately want is a heater. So I'm thinking either a resin vat heater band or an interior heater that I can put inside the printer, I'm hoping I don't need to mod my case for any of this, but I'm going to be looking into the options. There have been some good advances in resin heating technology this year, and it's just been the summer, and I've had no reason to go get one.
And during the summer, mine actually moved inside. They have a forever home in an old guest storage
Yay!
room, so I don't have to worry about it this
Does it
year.
does it get
Thankfully,
along with the other technology in the house?
more or less. I mean that room was mostly off limits for laundry purposes before, and so it's just still off limits, just so the cats don't get into anything yucky. But
And with that news, it brings us into what are we working on? Kristen, what are you working on?
I currently am working on Comet Lords, Knights of the
Ooh.
Perpetual Order.
That set looks sick.
I really, really like them. They, I have these bad guys in one of my games called the Faceless, and they're kind of like the perfect proxy for just that. I don't have to do hardly anything to the minis. They're creepy, they're ornate, they've got a good range of equipment. I did actually specifically say, "Hey Scott, if you ever get a chance to revisit these guys, would you add some caster minis in for them? Because I just want like a whole army of them. They're really, really neat. Kind of have like very little facial stuff on their helmets, and then on their armor they have like these hands, like almost like laying on of hands like on their breastplates and stuff. It really has kind of this I don't know, it's creepy to me. Some people would definitely see it as like a like a maybe like a more paladin vibe, but I think they're in the middle there on this image you've just pulled up. But they're definitely they have like these elaborate masks built into their armor, like their faces are all kind of displaced. It's very creepy but very pretty at the same time. And
Yeah,
so
they've got like overlapping hands on their shoulder pads
yeah,
and sigils on their face, and this is super creepy. This is I turned around in the wrong level of the abyss creepy.
I'm super into it, of course. But yeah, I have begged him to make more for this as like an
Mm.
ongoing theme. So we'll see. Hopefully Scott will do it, but I can't mind control him completely. So
And the leader has this gigantic bell it's wielding as a flail,
yep,
and these two hands coming out of its chest piece covering its eyes.
it's really
This is
cool.
just this is comment,
I'm
Lord. Why do you must do the nightmares to me? Why must you do
speaking of
this?
which,
We
I
want you back on the show soon, but you have to keep me up at night. I don't get enough sleep as it is.
so go if you're on are you on the Patreon like preview pages? If you go to this month's, it has the coolest Christmas tree topper I've ever seen. It's a biblically accurate angel.
Oh, good grief! I know the
And
one you're talking about. You're talking about Margot.
yes, it's super cool, but it's so many pieces. I'm like, I don't know if I can do it. But it actually has the rings with the eyes and everything, and it's got the big central eye, kind of almost beholdery, but
I
just
love that the
wings.
eye isn't just floating in there; it's connected by sinew.
Yeah. And then if you go below it, it has some of the same rings that are orbiting the central eye that go down and create a brace for your Christmas tree topper.
Oh goodness.
I love it.
Oh, I'm going to disappoint Alex. He was placing my bets on how many Dark Angels I have painted this week, guessing 30. I have done no painting this week, so I have no Dark Angels painted. I am so sorry. The unfortunate thing is that my Dark Angels are headed to a fire team, so there are going to be exactly 5 in in my team. So I will never get up to 30. On the flip side, I've got 40 rats on my paint table right now that will be done by next week because rats are awesome. I've been wanting to do that rat army for ages. And the OPR rats have come out, and they are very, very cute boys. And they have tiny little helper mice that helping them out. And they are all noble and clean and red wally and not disease ridden filth things. And I am in a very happy place.
They're not my rats, but I still love you, man.
So next month's preview is the preview that I'm really excited about for Comet Lord, which is that they have just like the super, like it's like fantasy fascism meets angels. Um,
Yeah, fairly fair.
these look like wonderful bad guys for a Final Fantasy game. Especially, it's the one I really like is the leader. I do not know which one of these characters. I think it's Ulrich von Kristnik, who has
Mm-hmm.
like the Magneto outfit and long cape, giant metal arm, and one of the only pose you need, the only pose that matters, is the one in which he is magnetoing gigantic great swords as
Mm-hmm.
if they are just throwing knives, just
Yep.
telekinetically about to throw them across the room and impale some PCs.
And then he
There's
has
no
his
way
like
on earth this isn't a villain.
Magitech army guys with him.
Hmm. Yeah, like the really cool steampunk like wrist blades and rifles. This is definitely this is so Final Fantasy it hurts. You know, I'm here
Um,
for it. I am absolutely here for it.
the apotheosis of man, the angel thing in the back there, for our listeners, it's got like six wings and it's kind of like raising up on some kind of tentacle capey thing. But like there's another sculpt for it that's just way more tentacles, and I love it. It's
Just
very
of course you love it. You've never met a tentacle you didn't like.
well. At least I'm consistent.
So I'm really happy. Comet Lord's been surprising us. I mentioned this is one of the things I'm working on this week is I am printing out the Ratty Boys,
Mm-hmm.
and that's great. I have, and that kind of leads me to one of the things that I've been doing, and the hot tip I haven't talked. I don't think I've talked too much about on the show,
James asked if
which
your
is
castle was complete before you move on from your projects.
no, it's not complete.
Oh, okay.
Haven't got back to the castle. It has been sitting neglected, waiting for its roof, and the poor thing.
FDM printing.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, honestly, it's like my little ADHD brain is like changing filament hard, and so every time I go to get it going again, I just be like, but then I have to change the filament because I'm out. I'm not completely out.
So you got to
I
do
have
the mid print
to
change.
No, I'm gonna just eject what's there and then just put a new roll in.
What are you going
I
to do with
do
the
not
remnant?
like.
Just toss it.
I'll put it to the side and never use it. Probably. It's like I have no idea how much is left on that spool, but it's not enough to do that roof. I know that much, and that's about it.
Fair
Um,
enough.
yeah, maybe I often need like a lot of these 3D prints assume you have spare filament laying around to like become the hinges for the doors. You like run filament
Sure.
through the doors and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
including this print. So that might be the fate of this roll is that it becomes the roll I grab filament from to feed into doors.
Okay. P&D Mike says he's painting tentacles too for Cthulhu from Artisan Guild.
Oh, those are very different tentacles, but I like them. The Cthulhu from Artisan Guild is actually a really fun model.
I don't know my 40k lore enough to understand Alex's Primeric reference. Maybe you do.
Oh, he says, Alex says, don't forget to print your Dark Angel Primarch Lionel Johnson. Psst, he's waking up soon. Which is because we have since learned that in the 40k lore right now, in the
Mm-hmm.
new books that are about to come out, a bunch of freaking demons have besieged the Rock, which is the Dark Angel's home base, and secretly where a sleeping Lionel Johnson, the Primarch of the Dark Angels, is kept safe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is very likely that they intend to wake him up because Gilliman is awake and right now is acting as the only Primarch on the Imperium side. And boy, wouldn't it be a whole lot of drama if there was suddenly a question as to who gets to inherit the God Emperor's throne instead of being only one choice.
Mm. That would like let you fight more Space Marines versus Space Marines fights.
I do think they're setting up a civil war. Absolutely.
Fun. My
Oh,
Tyranids will eat them both. It's fine.
yeah. I just
Uh,
need to find a good 3D printable Lionel Johnson.
mm.
Though actually, hmm, it is curious. I don't know that I don't know that I would ever field them because, like right now, like I said, my entire Dark Angel army is a single Terminator and 4 veterans gunners, and that's it. That's the whole thing. It's just
What, you
like
don't
my
need a
list is
Primarch for
real
your firefight team?
short. It'd be like I would need like 10 firefight teams to just
This
go
is
up
my
against
army right
him.
here. This is my one squad.
Yeah.
You
How
get
many
4
points
squads.
is Gilliman anyway? I'm curious as that. I do not know off the top of my head. But like would Gilliman be an entire kill team? It would be easy. He would kill an entire kill team easy. It has to be.
Probably.
Either that or they have massively understated this character. Like the bad guys have had their prime arcs for ages, like because they didn't die or go into comas or anything. You could just take Magnus out whenever you want. You giant pink dude, that's awesome.
Hmm.
Gilliman is 300 points by themselves right now, which would be 600 ish points in Grimdark Future, which is the game I'm actually going to play. Because I really love the Warhammer 40k's lore. I do not love the rules. I just cannot get into the ninth edition rules. They are so overly complicated.
I know what will happen. The second I actually get into the rules enough to be good at them, they'll release a new edition.
It's all signs are pointing to 10th edition coming out next year.
Right. So I'm not even gonna bother with this one.
Yeah. So think about it. We got new Warhammer coming out, new D&D coming out, lots of
Yeah.
things that are going to need models printed.
Some people are already on top of that, from what I have understood, but we're getting to that in the callouts, I bet.
So the other thing to chat about is a tip I don't know that I have brought up. I often need to do a lot of batch printing because I play a lot of armies games like Kings of War, Age of Fantasy, Grimdark Future. I need a lot of, and I'm also attracted to armies that like to have lots of bodies at the table. So, I like I don't need to play my high elves like that. My high elves absolutely could just be 5 dudes on dragons, but
That would be
no,
my army for sure.
I want a sea of spears and a line of archers behind them, and my opponent to curse the day they ever tried to step a toe on Althorn. Um, that's the image that I always like. I want that opening scene to Lord of the Rings. That's what I want to put on the table. The
Right.
gigantic line of elves that just obliterates whatever dares step forward. And then, of course, the next army I'm working on is Ratmen, and that's just like it's like 140 points of my 2000 is 20 rats, and I'm not how many I'm gonna need so many rats. You don't play rats without just flooding the table with little furries. I and that means I need to print a bunch. I need
Yeah.
to print a whole bunch of things. And another project that I did recently also needed to print a whole bunch of things. And even when I was printing my Dark Angels, I needed to print like it was a modular kit. So when I want to print a whole bunch of the same thing or a whole bunch of things at once, it does get annoying playing build plate Tetris. I love build plate Tetris. I've talked to you how much I love to
You're
optimize the build
better at
plate.
it than I am.
Yeah.
And I'm
And
pretty good, but I'm not as good as you are.
I like to get because I have a whole lot to do. Yes, I will play with unpainted models, so I will put unpainted models on the table.
Mm.
I'm in it for like I will paint those models, Kristen. I have painted hundreds of
Mm.
models this year, and I
Slap
will
chop
continue.
has taken away all excuses, in my opinion, but that's just me. Go on.
Oh boy, you cannot slap chop as fast as I'm printing them. I wonder if that is even possible.
You
But
could also do color zenithal primes and get them pretty good looking fast. But anyway,
I usually do that. I do prime my stuff fat. I mean, like nothing hits the table unprimed, but they are unpainted sometimes. And I do colored primes when I'm in that situation. So even if I'm having to play in an event, I will do the two-tone dark color, light colors in the Thul to get something at least looking decent on the table.
And then you can
That
just
is
kind
a
of go
that
with
is
it.
a very fast way
Yep.
to cheat.
Little
And I talked
highlighting.
about the pawns, but we're printing a whole bunch of stuff at once. Getting that stuff on the build plate is a pain sometimes because like getting everything to fit just right so that I can fit the optimal number of rats on this build plate is not always easy. Also, I know I'm going to need a whole bunch of them, and putting the 10 poses of rats or 5 poses of rats and then copying each of them the number of times I'm going to need each copy and then manually putting them on the build plate. And if it's a modular kit, it's even worse. Like for the Space Marines, it was like, and here's all the shoulder pads, and here's all the heads, and here's all of the pistols that I
Yeah.
need to glue to their belts, and the combat knives that go on their boots, and the 3 pouches I'm going to put on their belts, and the grenades, and or bases. I do this all the time with bases. I'm going to need a tray full of 50 bases for these rats to stand on. Doing them individually every time I want to print up a batch of them is a pain in the butt. Even if I save the build plate as an editable file later, it is still a pain in the butt and takes an enormous amount of time. So I batch it.
Okay.
I will open up Cheeto Box. I will grab my 5 rat poses. So, and I do this so that I will have an even distribution of rat poses across my force. And then we'll line them up in the corner and then do my little Tetris and get them all as compact as physically possible and neatly organized in those 5 in the corner with the eye that I will then save that plate as an STL file,
Mm-hmm.
because you can do that in Cheeto Box, and I will call it my Rat 5 pack. And
Mm-hmm.
then I will take that 5 pack and I will open it, and then I will open it 5 times, and that is so much easier than putting 50 rats on the table. I can just open that as many times as I need rats, and now they're already optimally Tetrised. I just need to squeeze the
Hmm.
5 packs together as much as possible. And I'm able to get a whole bunch of rats. And then any corners I have left over, that's when the single rats come in. So what I usually do, like I did with my rats, is I get 3 5 packs on the plate. And that covers most of the plate because these they're halberders. They have wide stances for such little furry things.
Hmm.
And then I get the command group, which has also been done this way because I'm going to need that command group with every single regiment. I bring it in, and I have just a couple of holes left on the plate, and I bring in single rats to fill in all those holes to get the maximum number of rats. So I get an entire regiment of rats in a single print plate, and I'll be ready to play with those. They're actually waiting for me on the printer right now, and I've done that for all of the weapon variations for those rats. And
Dang.
I, for the Space Marines, I'll just do little batches of 5 heads, and then 5 guns, and then 5 shoulder pads, and then 5 shoulder pads with the emblem on them, and
I'm surprised you still build those out. Like, because at this point, I would probably like pre-attach all of mine so they were just one dude. But
I the problem with that is that I would do that with everything but the shoulder pads,
mm-hmm.
because the shoulder pads are always designed to kind of like cover up the seams, and there's lots of airspace underneath
Sure.
there that will trap resin. It just becomes a pain in the butt to try to pre-mount the shoulder pads. I've done it. It works, but it's just a pain in the butt. So I usually, if nothing else, I will assemble everything but the head and shoulder packs,
Mm-hmm.
and then print those separately. Because heads, I often have a hard time because it likes to put little chin supports that you have to cut out with a hobby knife later, and I'm like, I just print the head separately. I'll glue them on, and so then I'll have like the body posed out with the arms and weapon choices I want, and then I'll just come in with those last 2 details. With the Dark Angels, it was just a matter of I needed 5 of these things. It wasn't worth me spending an hour. Like, I don't need 40 of these guys.
Right.
Eventually, I'm going to need 40 of these guys. And the other reason is sometimes I do just put together one of these kits, which is this is just a little bead organizer that I got
Mm-hmm.
picked up at the box store for $1. And it's just like all the torsos, all the legs, all the left arms, all the right arms, and I'll just like literally print a tray full of torsos, a tray full of legs,
Sure.
and then I'll just this is one of my elf builders. It's just like I need an elf. Just grab the parts I need to customize an elf. Now I do prefer to pre-assemble whenever I'm going to do something big, but every now and then it is convenient to have bits.
Very cool.
All right, but that isn't the only reason I was batch printing. So you love speed paints.
I do.
I love speed
Although I
paints
also
too.
like contrast paints. I'm not going to give up either of them, I don't think. Unless
Gosh.
that new range that they're testing right now is really good.
So speed paints, contrast paints have the same problem where you look at the bottle and you got no idea what color it is.
Especially
Because
what it's going to do on a white primer, for sure.
right. And because it has an effect, it matters. And they do print the bottles with like a little thing, but on the speed paints, no, that's not even close.
Not even, no.
And but at least I kind of got familiar with them enough that I didn't need it. But for the contrast paints especially, I really wanted to know what these looked like. And people have come up with different ways to accomplish this. Some people have printed off a whole bunch of Space Marines. If you go to a GW, they'll often have a display of Space Marines painted in
Yep.
the single contrast paints, or backpacks, or shields, or bases. Dana Howe just did a whole bunch of bases to show off the new speed paints.
I love her website for color reference, although I have noticed on one of my computers it's off. So I have to use very specific screens to make sure I'm looking at the right colors.
And for speed paint specifically, I've seen some people take the caps and prime them white and then paint the whole cap.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
That's a whole lot of paint you're using, though.
So your solution is?
I took a Viking shield from Titan Forge and sized it down to 9mm.
Those are itty bitty.
Yes, and then I glue and I white tack them to the tip of the bottle, and then I painted them with the contrast paint so that when I take this little drawer out of my paint case, I can glance down and see exactly what color it is and how it will look over a textured object and grab it. And I did the same thing to my contrast paints. I did that with a whole bunch of night shields from Highland Miniatures. It was their original night set. I printed that shield out a bunch of times and glued it to the lids there. Now those got to be really big, but since they're permanently on the wall, they're bigger so I can see them easier. These are going to be right in front of me, so tiny is good.
Nice.
And in this little compact drawer, you can't see the sides easy enough to see the labels.
Big fancy case you got?
It is. This is from the Frontier Wargaming case, and it is nice.
That's nice.
So, yeah. So, and as you can see, this one drawer holds the entire range of speed paints.
Nice.
But I needed technically I needed 24 of them, but I printed 50, and I did that by batching it. And one of the things I did with this was when I printed the shields, I left them on the supports to prime them because I knew I was going to need to prime a bunch of them.
Nice. Well, you're not needing the back primed really anyway, so
right.
That's smart.
So yeah, so I just did this, primed this, because can you imagine me trying to tape down each of these little shields individually?
Oh, I can more than imagine it. I have lived it. I primed some shoulder pads that were free for my Monarch squads.
Oh goodness.
And those I still find those scattered around the house. Yeah.
So I felt real clever using my 3D printer to solve practical problems.
I like it. I think I worry more about the execution, and the stuff I had for batch printing is more about the execution part of it. So,
though this has left me to believe that this is printed in the navy gray with tenacious,
Mm-hmm.
it still snaps so easy.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that this is I'll burn through this bottle, and I think that I will find something else. Soriatic fast. Oh, it's just not. I keep going back to it, and I just don't think it's for me. It's
I
too brittle.
I like how it plays. The Tenacious plays with the Elegoo stuff and with the Anycubic
Hmm.
resins. That rich Opto stuff. It actually holds detail really well just by itself, which is and it's cheap and it's crap. It's gonna break, but
Hmm.
it really doesn't seem to be better. I think I mentioned if I use vibrational agitation to clean it too long, even with Tenacious, it gets super brittle.
Ooh, that's not good.
And I almost wonder if that's because there's a difference in the bonds, and so the strong parts are actually vibrating like differently than the weak parts, and it just crumbles.
Hmm.
Well, thank you. Slevtech says he loved our podcast with MZ425.
Yeah, that was a fun episode. I really enjoyed speaking with them. I hope to get to speak with them again in the future.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of all I've been up to lately. Oh no, there was a weird thing that happened with
With
this resin I wanted to
yeah,
bring up.
yeah.
So I did not get to print much for a week because of I had a death in the family, and the last thing I was really thinking about was 3D printing and stuff. We That was the week we had to cancel the show gang. And so that resin just sort of sat in the vat for a week. This isn't usually a problem. I've left the resin mix, even mixed resin. Like this is, a tenacious mix. You mix tenacious into for listeners listening the first time. Tenacious, Soriatec tenacious is a very flexible resin. You can print with it by itself, but that's kind of not recommended and not its purpose. It's an additive resin that you mix in with other resins to make them more flexible and durable. I put 10% of it. I do a 10-to-1 mix with most of my resins so that they're flexible, and when I drop a mini, it doesn't shatter into 1,000 pieces.
It would also be very expensive to print solely in that.
Yeah, it used to be $100 a bottle. It's down to
Even
$60 a
60, yeah, it's
bottle.
even still pretty spendy.
Yeah, that's 60 is like within the range of I wouldn't want to do it, but I would if I thought there was a good purpose for it.
Sure.
Yeah. But when you print in pure tenacious, it doesn't hold details very well, and you have to use very long print times.
Yeah.
But you end up with like something that's almost like a bouncy ball.
That's neat. But you
It's
said
rubbery.
it didn't stay safe. Something happened.
I had this weird separation happen in the resin where this like it separated. Like there's always some separation. You have to like mix your resin. But this was like very dark gray and absolutely pale chalky white.
Mm.
And I've never had a mix separate that exact way before. Usually it's like here's lighter green and a darker green, and I
That's
just
usually
mix it
like
together,
a
and it's
2 or 3 week situation for me. Sometimes it'll separate like that, but it's got to been a while.
And it stuck to the bottom of the FEP when I was like trying to mix it up. I saw this like absolute white layer at the bottom that took me forever to stir back up. And the reason I noticed it is that I was printing some Space Marine proxies for my little sister,
Mhm.
and they had this like one of them had a solid white leg. And I'm like, why do you have a white leg? What's going on?
That's
No
weird.
detail was lost. No failures happened. I did mix it before I printed with it because it had been a week. So, of course, I mixed it. But I did the butter churn method.
Hmm.
And are you familiar with the butter churn method?
That's where you're lowering your build plate up and
Yes.
down.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I usually do, and it works. I'd say like maybe 95% of the time for me. Every once in a while, though, there's that weird time that something like this happens.
Hmm. I never have this problem with the Elegoo. Even like I've left some stuff in that vat for over a month once. Like when I was gone to like back to back trips and Gen Con and all that jazz. It was
Hmm.
over a month before I got to use the printer again. And I just had slightly darker green and slightly lighter green. Catlet says navy gray separates like that in 24 hours or so. It's the
Yikes!
pigments. Oh my gosh. Oof. It looks so good. Navy gray looks so good when you print with it. I understand why people like this stuff so well. It's such a great look on the model. But I think I'm done with it. I think I'm going back to ABS like from Elegoo, or I might try any cubic, but Elegoo ABS like
Pretty
is
solid.
just yeah, it's flexible enough on its own, and with tenacious, like the freaking things have super sharp detail, and just are near invincible.
Yeah, I had some Anycubic translucent orange, I want to say,
Mm-hmm.
that was in there for like months, and I just was spacey and didn't mix it or anything, and it printed fine. So like, it's weird because this apparently 24 hours. That's crazy. That's upsetting,
Yeah.
actually.
Oof. Yeah. So that was just weird. You got anything else you're working on?
Well, I was just mentioning because I've been doing a lot of terrain.
Mm-hmm.
The week before, I've been doing a lot of the interiors stuff from the cast and play big big set, and I have object permanence issues, like pretty bad actually, and so it's hard for me because I had this little beautiful little paint diary, and it's a best practice. It gets recommended to people a lot. So I was like, okay, if you're doing like a base prime, heavy dry brush, you know, light dry brush, secondary dry brush, whatever, you actually get those actual paints. You write down the number, you write down the proportions if you do mixes, et cetera, et cetera. Really good idea. It works really well for James and other couple other painters I know. But that's not good if you lose your paint notebook every time you try to use it, which is one of my problems because it just vanishes, especially if I have to like clean up my paint area in a hurry. I don't know where it's gone. It might as well have lit on fire. So what I've been doing actually is I got a little stackable Christmas organizer thing on clearance last year at Michael's,
Mm-hmm.
and it was terrible. For it's originally supposed to be a paint caddy, is what my idea was, and it worked
Okay.
okay, but it because it's like all the sides flip down and you can pull off whatever tray you want to get into.
Mm-hmm.
When you load it heavy, if the top pops, the whole thing goes, and that's bad. But what it's turning out to be really good for is, okay, I do a batch print like you've been doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I take my like 6 paints for that batch paint and put it into that, and becomes my little project box, so I don't have to look for those. I don't even have to go to my kit. I have it. This is set up, and I know that this is okay. I'm working on my Dark Angels or whatever it is, and my little teeny box is ready to go. And this is really good with the terrain because I use a lot of craft paint. And so sometimes I can go spend $3 or $4 and buy the entire exact paints and not have to worry about the fact that I'm taking on my paint set. I can just have this project kit ready to go. I can even get the crappy, I usually go get like some dollar store makeup brushes or whatever for the dry
Mm-hmm.
brushing. And I just put them in there and it's all just ready to go. It also means I can travel with it. So like if I have friends who want to do a paint night, I can just grab that one kit and be like, okay, we're going to go do that. Or I've even taken it to a game where I'm like,
Ooh.
I got there early. I need to finish a little detail work, or this piece got chipped, um,
Ooh.
and I can fix it on the fly. So yeah, really, I have been having a lot of success with that, and it's been making my crafting life a lot easier. So I don't have to dig through things because I'm not an organizational genius.
It sounds cool. Now you talk these caddies. These are the is it similar to the ones that Luke APS was talking about for their portable paint station?
I don't know. These are, of course, it's like I actually put it away for once.
Mm-hmm.
They're like maybe 6 by 8. They're just high enough to put contrast, like GW pots fit in them fine. You have to lay down army painter stuff in them, so you have to
Okay.
lay down your craft paints in them too. But
Okay.
they're just little. I want to say it was 75% off at Michael's. I should probably get a link for it somewhere, but
Mm-hmm.
just really easy. Like I said, my biggest problem with it is the lid fits in that top tray, and you can restack them however you want because they're just modular, the same tray basically that locks into the bottom of the tray above it. And so you can even take off just 2 and just take the 2 with the handle if you want. But my biggest problem is if you have the whole thing fully loaded with paint, sometimes it's enough to warp the edge of that plastic lock, and it will pop the lid off and drop your whole setup, which is a mess.
Mm.
I haven't
That
had too.
sounds dangerous.
Yeah, but it works really well for small stuff.
I've been organizationally minded too. In fact, I recently am working on an upgrade to my miniature storage.
Mm.
Yes. So I've been using those letter trays, those Amazon
I
letter
have
trays.
been inspired by you, and I can see all 8 of mine right there, right behind you.
Yes. Um, I wanted some more,
Yeah, as I say, it's
but
not
I
enough for
wanted some
me.
more that I could stack.
Mm.
Yes. And I was pointed to another set of letter trays that IKEA makes
Oh.
that are very much like ours, called the uh, Vessel, Kvissle,
Okay.
and it is a solid white letter tray. The bottom of it, the tray itself are metal, so the just like the ones we're using from Amazon, the minis will stick to it. Um, and other than that, it's kind of the same idea, but because it's in a perfect cube storage, it will fit into those little cube organizers,
Yeah.
and they stack on top of each other, which is something that the ones from Amazon don't do very well.
No,
You
they do
can
not.
do it. I did manage to get some of those to stack with some
Zip ties or something.
zip ties. Zip ties was the word I was looking for. Thank you. But like these line up really well in shelves. They are the big downside is they are heavy. These are
Mm.
steel. These are these things get put together, they are tanks. They will protect your minis from bullets.
Well, hopefully we don't have to deal with that too much.
Yeah. So I'm going to add this to my storage arsenal, and
I
if you
will
look
follow your
behind,
progress because the form factor, if it fits in those Calic shelves and stuff, that's great.
and they're only $25 a piece, which is about $7 more than the ones I use, and I think you're using.
Right, right.
But here's the thing: if you have a IKEA next to you, you can get as many of these as you want. If you are having them shipped to you, they will only ship you four at a time. The
That's
second I went
interesting.
over five, they were like, no, no longer available to ship. And I'm like, why, IKEA? Why? And then the package came and I figured out why.
Because they
Oh
come
my
in
god,
fours.
it's heavy. It
Oh,
is so heavy. Like it is the four of these in a box weighs over 100 pounds.
wow.
It is stupid heavy. I am so glad that I will not need to move them much. But so when I get ready to do the complete renovation of the game room, uh, these will these will be in a nice little row on top of where I keep my terrain. So all my minis will be you'll be able to see them in the background of the videos. Like my little minis all ranked up on their little trays.
Nice.
Yes.
Shout
Well,
outs.
with that we need to move on to the shout outs. I was looking for my notes. All right. For the shout outs, I have one shout out. Dragon Trappers Lodge next month is putting out the Children of the Flame. This is very much inspired by the upcoming Dragonlance adventure, where like it's going to be like very war-y with dragons and very Death Starry. I don't really know much about Dragonlance, I just know dragons that are involved in war.
For the pre-order people, it's looking like it's a little bit of divergence from the original setting.
Okay,
Almost like an alternate history. That's what I'm getting the vibe of. But it's now the
interesting.
official setting, so it's not alternate. It's the new timeline.
Ah, reboots. Don't you love reboots?
But it's definitely more war-y and is focusing on that
Right.
aspect a little bit.
So, Dragon Chapter Lodge next month's set is got like Dragonborn soldiers and WW2 outfits and kobolds with Tommy guns. And if you don't want the guns, they're all available in crossbows and stuff. And like these giant lizards that like literally have pillboxes on their backs and cannons mounted off the top of them. And it's just so lovely of a fun set. And I have been working with them as part of my job with OPR to make stats for OPR
Nice.
using these models. It's going to be part of the OPR compatibility stuff. We that got announced in the live stream, the OPR live streams, which is why I'm free to talk a little bit more about it. But hey, this is the cool game design thing I got to do is help design the rules for the war game rules for this faction that Dragon Trappers Lodge is putting out, and they were using the same, the point calculator and all that jazz to make sure that they are balanced and fit in with the one-page rule stuff. So, hey, this was a very cool project.
That's
I'd
super
never got
awesome.
to make an army before,
So people can
and
come to you, Perram,
and
with balancing
one
inventories.
one of these, I mean, technically yes, because man, I've been through the trial by fire, learning how the balance and the internal do's and don'ts of this system works. Um, but
Nice.
one of these buggers, the siege behemoth, the one with the pillbox on its back, can have an entire regiment of kobolds inside that pillbox and is over 1,000 points by itself.
Wow. That's crazy.
Well, Dragon Trappers Lodge has this habit of making minis that are like this, like 6 inches to a side, and this
Yeah,
one
if
was
I
like
would
8 inches long, 6 inches tall. Like it covers up a colossal base easy.
yeah, they were having a first person who can print their big airship from this month's release and paint it and post it gets a free year
Wow.
of the Patreon. I was like, oh, but FDM me, I just I can't do it successfully fast enough. I'm sure someone's already got it up.
My favorite mini from this set. I don't know that I can show art for it because I don't know if it's been previewed yet. But is the Kobold Commando.
Is that the
And
one
it
riding the rocket?
Yes, it's this little kobold with the little World War II hat on,
If you're
riding a giant
curious,
rocket with a rocket launcher on his shoulder.
the preview art at least was on the Discord. So you, if you're joining their Discord, you can see at least the art preview art.
Yeah,
So
it was so. I looked at this and like, how the heck are we going to stat this?
nice.
But it looks really cool, and it was really cool to get to do this as like official game design work. I don't get to flex my game design muscle very often professionally, but it is fun when I do get to.
Awesome. I have a quickie, hopefully, if
Okay.
we can get it in here because I know we're kind of over time a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
Crippled God dropping Dungeons of Despair tonight. Kickstarter, early bird, 48 hours. Saves, I think, $10 off of your Dungeon Delver, which is a basic pledge, to 398 models, 398 models for $38. So that's under our dollar an STL file limit for, at least in my estimation, of a good value. If you have not been following Crippled God, they also have an early bird that has 7 of their releases, their welcome pack, and some extended stuff, plus the base pack, base pledge in for 145, which is pretty close to just paying for the Patreons for all those months plus the pledge. So huge value.
Mm-hmm.
Mini files wise, if you're looking to get set up, especially if you just started or trying to get somebody like just set up to go, has a lot of the basic classic monsters, etc. It's a good value, especially just even the $38 level. 48 hours to jump on it though.
So what is the deal with this set? I'm looking at the preview picture.
Mm-hmm.
It's got caverns that has optional walls. I love
Mm-hmm.
that. Cool waterfalls, really cool bookshelves, like really cool terrain. It
Yep.
looks like the default dungeons have low height walls, but some of the walls are full height. Are the
Yeah, they
walls
have a mix.
optional?
It feels very similar to cast and play setup. It is optional. They
Yeah.
are modular. They have just a very simple slot system. I don't
Hmm.
know if it would work with Dragonlock. They have their own printable slots. I did really appreciate that they have 1-inch hallways, so they actually have connectors that are just narrow, which is something that a
Okay.
lot of sets miss. Um, But yeah, they have full height and half height walls. They have partially destroyed walls. They have functional doors with like
Mm-hmm.
uh, what you call it, portcullises that drop and pull up
Mm-hmm.
and stuff.
Yeah.
So all that stuff's pretty good. A lot of traps that are animated, like you can roll down ball
Mm-hmm.
channels and swinging pendulums.
A
So I thought
lot of
that was
cool
pretty.
centerpiece features I'm seeing here, like roundy staircases, and I think there's even that's an oubliette. It's not often you get an oubliette in the printable terrain set.
Right, and it has a drawbridge that raises and lowers. There's
Oh,
a lot of stuff in it.
okay,
Um,
cool. Very. So, what is the all-in early bird you said?
$38
Oh,
for
wow, that's a
300. Yeah,
yes.
398. So like, yeah, it's a STL file count 398. Sorry.
Yeah. I do hope the walls are optional because I have really started to live in 2.5D land lately, and that's how I'm
I
really
am all
digging it.
about the short walls. My players prefer them. What lately is back the DM screen facing side when I'm running is full height just for flavor, and
Right?
then everything facing the players is low.
That's a good way. I like doing one wall where the back has the full hot wall and the centerpiece stuff,
Yeah,
and then there are no walls facing the players.
sure, I could see that too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. All right, everyone. And that will do it for this week. If you want to find more, you can find it over at printyourgames.com. And if you want to help the show out, give us a rating on iTunes or Spotify. If you're watching this on YouTube, give us a like, comment, and subscribe. That helps boost engagement. And otherwise, you can email us at podcast@printyourgames. We're also available on Facebook at facebook.com/printyourgames. And until next time, I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Perram.
I'm Kristen Sowards, also known as Seventh Mastery, and don't forget to use the screen